of the first things you do when you walk into the paddock is you have a look and you assess how much regrowth you've got, especially after the event and your rain. You have a look, you guess you know, 40% regrowth. That's excluding the rubbish. So basically you work out what you need to do from there. First thing you do, soil test. Soil test, because as we mentioned, you know, with the heavy rain we've had, we've lost so much of our nutrients, and the fire, you lose your nitrogen anyway. Keep your potassium, it might go up a little bit, and your phosphate, if you had phosphate on, it's still there. Trace elements like magnesium was mentioned, calcium mentioned, all huge requirements for breeding stock, as you know. So one of the things you would do is look at liming. Liming generally reasonably cheap, and whatever you maybe a couple of tonne a hectare, it'll look white, but it'll do the job as far as the calcium and magnesium go. Your soil test will tell you what you need to do as far as putting the other trace elements back. The nitrogen, that's gone. So when you look at this paddock, for instance, and you need to do something really quick, perhaps look at a quick fix, like as I mentioned before, like a bit of forage gates and maybe annual ryegrass. Drill it in, make sure you put in NPK with it, just to bring that nitrogen level up. And then having said that, is stock management after that, because nitrate, particularly with oats, can be an issue with young stock, particularly young stock. So manage your grazing. You know, look at beet height. Don't go in too early, because that's just going to be damaging to your pasture. If you're looking at maybe a 50%, 60% regrowth, same, do your soil tests, make sure that they're all good. You can perhaps undersow with, you know, something just that Italian ryegrass will give you a bit more longevity. Good for hay, good for silage. But this, you know, I mean, we've got clover that's coming back. It's great. It's awesome. Which is also going to help with your nitrogen.
Can I just ask a question? There's been a lot of talk about the clover regrowth in properties that have never ever sown clover. Why? Why is that? Why is it so prevalent?
Because like some wheat seeds, these will sit in the soil with a hard casing around the seed, so they can sit there for years. And then all of a sudden it takes an event like a fire, crack the seed, away she goes. Particularly subclovers, because and I mean subclovers are so underrated, because coming into end of spring, beginning of summer, subclover does its reproductive thing. So it buries its own seed. So when you come into a drought period, fire period, that's buried. And so once the fire goes through, get a bit of moisture, away the subclover comes. And you know, I can't sort of reiterate enough that every pasture mix should have some subclover in it. And on hard.
Testify.
Yeah.
Just on that.
And it doesn't have to be a lot.
Just on that, I reckon you're absolutely spot on with your subflavors. I'm old school, and there was no such thing as a pasture blend without a friggin' subflavor in it back in the day. The only trouble with our subs in this part of the world is that they are performing a grouse job. They're covering our soil, they're holding our soil together, they're filtering, they're doing all the right things. But when it gets cold, those subs are going to stay there. They're not actually going to grow you big volumes of feed. They're going to do an amazing job, and they're going to offer your soil a backbone, and they're going to fix nitrogen, they're going to do all those wonderful things, but they're not going to feed much in the way of stock. So although we've got heaps of clover, don't expect in 6 weeks' time that it's going to be standing up this high, because it's a sub-clover.
And clover is notoriously showy anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you look at it, you think you've got a fair bit of feed. There's never as much feed as actually what you would think if you...
And post-fire, when we've got these really heavy clover-dominant pastures, it's fantastic until the second hot day in October, and suddenly our pastures are really threadbare, and we're going into a pretty tough summer.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, looking at this clover here, it's probably not going to get much bigger than this. But, you know, it doesn't grow particularly high unless you've got, you know, an annual clover in it, or, you know, a bit of shaftor or hyper, or, you know, white clovers. But yeah, it is. I think subclover is underrated, because it just does so much for you. Pastures and you know, nitrogen fixing, which is, you know, what you lose after a fire anyway, so that's helping with that. But yeah, it's there's so many pasture varieties available today for you people, you know, even in severe burn areas. There's like mixes you can use, like with heaps of legumes and radishes, you know, tiller radish and that sort of thing, just to put the organic back into the soil, build your soil structure up. You know, a lot of you guys have probably heard this so many times before, but it's just taking the basic steps, and severe burn areas, hot to severe, it's going to take 3 years before you can get any soil structure back, because of the nature of the beast. So, I mean, a lot of farms haven't got stock on. They've lost their stock. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to clean up everything, get your fertiliser right, put in a quick feed, maybe cut some hay silage off it later on, for your hay bank, and you know, re-look at it in the spring, because it'll throw a different light on the whole situation. Come springtime, you'll be able to basically, you can see how the budget's going after all this, and then your soil should start to show a little bit of comeback. So yeah, can't reiterate it enough. Just
Liv, Susan, when I sowed this down in 2010,
yes,
it was a couple of hard-seeded clovers, ryegrass, cocksfoot, chicory and plantain. The cocksfoot in that paddock there is almost dominant.
Yep.
Right, you can hardly pick it up over here, to the point where I've got to really graze it hard so it doesn't pump up. That's what I now call cocksfoot. Why would it go so well there, and the rest of the property you almost don't see it?
yeah, it kind of varies, and it's about how your soil is, how you know, what sort of fertiliser program, rain, events, that sort of thing. It all varies, but there's three varieties that three types of grasses that handle fires. Some better than others. So there's Phalaris, because it grows beneath the ground. They can handle pretty much up to a hotbed. Torpesky, long taproot, and cocksfoot. And those three varieties will handle, you know, cool to severe. So yeah, it's your cocksfoot is like that's another grass that's supporting it. Not as well as Polaris, but it's still good.
My question is, as someone who's never sown, we only have 12 acres, we've got really good soursop and weeds growing, dandelion and capeweed. We're seeing that grow back, so it's holding the soil together. But what do you do? Do you I'm sure you don't, but I'm just going to ask, do you have to poison it and then seed, or do you just seed over the top of it? What do you do with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's like you measure how much pasture you've got left.
Yep.
So you work out your percentage, and it might be
Eagle.
very little.
Yep.
So the option might be to go and spray the whole paddock out, start again.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is walk into your paddock, look around, see what's going on.
Yeah, not much in some of
Okay,
them.
so
Lots of weeds.
you got weeds. So
Yep.
your best option that I would recommend,
Yep.
if you've got a lot of weeds coming through, is actually blow the whole paddock out and put in a new pasture.
Okay. That would be okay, considering we don't have much. Because the other thing you hear is, you've got something growing in your soil, leave it, because at least it's something holding the soil together. And then it's like, but yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm asking.
There is that,
You
but
want
weeds
animals.
you can't feed animals on weeds.
No, only
Um,
bees.
That's right. So I mean, you've got to look at the option of putting in something.
Yep.
You know, where it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, it can be a cheap option.
Yep.
But yeah, at the end of the day, you want to feed your animals.
Saying that, would you broadcast the seed on the ground, or will you actually work the soil up?
I try and avoid working the soil up.
So just broadcast it?
Yeah. You need that seed soil contact. So if you broadcast, make sure you roll afterwards. If you're on a hilly country like that, you broadcast, get your neighbour's sheep, or if you're going to buy the sheep, get the dogs to work out across it and keep it in. Yep.
If it's reasonably flat, it'll stay there?
It'll stay there. You've got to roll it though.
So my question's about clover. So we've had this incredible strike of clover.
Yes.
What happens if we don't get follow-up rain and that all dies? What is the likelihood that, because we've had such an incredible strike?
The clover won't. It'll take a hit, and but it'll still be there.
You still think?
So it'll come back.
Yeah.
It'll come back. Yeah. Who knows when we're going to get the next lot of rain?
That was very
So
similar to last year.
You're saying that it's not going to die, or it's going to die, and more seed will still be in the ground.
There'll still be more seed in the ground. I mean, the clover seed bank is huge. It is huge. It's mind-boggling. I can't even think of what the numbers are. But,
It's pretty mind-boggling how much is there.
Yeah.
You know, on good.
Yes.
You know, on
You have to think, if you were sowing it, what would you be sowing it? Like 5 kilos, 6 kilos?
I wouldn't even go
Get
there.
a mix.
2 to 3 kilos
So,
in a mix.
like if you're sowing it, you're looking to put out 2 to 3 kilos per hectare. So in the scheme of what's your seed bank,
Yeah.
you don't need much to achieve in that sort of thing. But as I said, last year we had a very similar start to the year. Like we had a good early rain, and we thought we were one rain off being champions and having a great season, and then we didn't get another rain last weekend. May it was, and we had clover that had it germinated early and died. So
And it
I was
still
on a
came up, but then again,
Correct.
in winter, once it was wet
Correct,
bowl here, of course, so it's
Yeah.
not going.
I was on a property yesterday that, in Alex, and the farmer there said that it was the son of his father said, I'd say clover there about, might have been 60 years ago. And the son said, well, I've never put any in my mixes, you know, going over this paddock. But we looked at the paddock and it was just green, mass, and it was all clover.
Yeah, same.
There was hardly even a weed in it. It was just clover. It was like, I've never had clover here before. Like, you know,
So that's my
it's,
concern. If it's there and it's been there for years and
Yeah.
years and years and you've sown paddocks or whatever,
yeah, it's just like, you know, the seed bank is
Is huge.
there.
that's
It's just a matter of an event to unlock it.
We're all right as long as we keep getting dewy weather. But once the clovers get to a stage where they've formed their little plant, they'll survive quite happily on morning dew. So it's where we get into frosts and frosts
what
and
I'm
frosts.
asking is,
Yeah.
this because we have late breaks, and this could mean that all this dies if it doesn't rain till May. We get hot weather.
It's probably not so much the hot that we've got to worry about. It's the windy and droughty weather like and frosts. You know, that's if we get a typical drought in this part of the world, we'll get 12 to 14 frosts in a row, and then we'll get bloody fortnight of windy weather, and you know it really just saps that top 2 inches out of moisture. That's when we might lose. But in some respects, if we've got really clover dominant pastures, that might not be the end of the earth.
No,
Because
It's still
we
there.
actually need the other grasses to come through it to give us a little bit more of a variety for the coming season.
And that's the other thing. Do we need to think about putting more, direct drilling? a bit?
Oversowing,
Yeah.
certainly.
So we're going to
Yep.
talk about that today.
You asked,
Actually, clover's not great to drill.
No, I'm not talking about
No.
drilling clover. I'm drilling
It's just
the other
more
species
Oh, right,
if this
yeah.
clover is dominant.
trying to restore a bit more grass
Grass,
percentage.
Getting
Yeah,
a better
just-
pasture, I guess.
Just direct drill. Whatever species that you're looking for. Yeah, there's no issues here. It won't upset the clover too much. In fact, it might do some good.
When's the opportunity, like Andrew, you sell a big down as well, but what's the window from now on? We're sort of looking, from now to May or something in terms of if you're going to direct drill, bit of warmth still.
What we've got now is a bit of a race against the other grasses, which is a good problem to have. Usually for an oversow, you'll want to have your cattle on the job smashing or your sheep on the job smashing it down so that there's very little to compete with whatever it is that you're putting in. And you usually would be looking to do that after an autumn break. You could dry sow, but that's rolling a dice.
What do you mean by dry sow?
Well, would you just sowing before an autumn break, and you know the rain's going to come at some stage. If it doesn't come till June, well then it's already got cold, and we're not going to get much of a response. But if we're direct drilling into a ground that's had 120 mil of rain like we have, our problem is that we're going to have all of these other species out competing these little ryegrasses that are trying to get up. So ideally, in the perfect world, we'd say, righto, we just need a travelling mob of sheep to come in, eat this paddock out, then we'll oversow it. But then the travelling mob of sheep's got to go because we've got no other grass to feed them. So once we've got this window that we have to really use what Mother Nature gives us, I think, this year. What I did was got on the tractor early and was watching the weather and knew that we had some sort of biblical rain event through looking at the international models, computer models. And I rolled the dice and I sowed 25 acres of oats. And I cultivated with a spiked aerator on full aggression into ash and just barren paddocks. No organic matter left. We were burnt properly. There's nothing left. So by stirring that ground up, it was a horrible dusty job. My tractor hasn't got balls. And we managed to break it up to a tune of about that deep. It was very, very hard. And then I was getting the black oats down 30 millimetres. And I didn't get any cockies at all. I didn't see a cocky on the whole place. Sadly, that's probably because of them. We couldn't walk a metre along the coffee street without finding a dead coffee. So the weird, the colour. It's like it's been, it's like one of those old black and white photos that somebody's hand coloured. It's this bizarre green. It's like no other green.
Amongst everything black.
Yeah. So, the other thing was we disturbed the soil. So I've got a spike aerator. They've been around for years. Everything. So there was only one paddock on 30 acres that didn't have some form of strategic tillage. So it's either a slot in the ground that's big enough to fit your hand in every sort of 10 or 12 inches. Some sort of ripper with a culvert, open the soil and let the moisture in. Then we got 56 mil of rain, then we got 25 mil of rain, then we got 44 mil of rain. On top of that, 4 tonne of the hectare of compost, because the organic matter's gone. So I had it there, but the heap was slowly burning. It was getting smaller. So yeah, I spread it. And that made a huge difference. So now we've got some sort of moisture that's down this far. On paddocks that I didn't do it, working them up yesterday, digging down that far and it's still coming out of powdery dust. And the reason why I'm ripping those paddocks and aerating those paddocks is because off this range, a huge volume of water went down there. Third wire on the fence has debris on it. So we had water that deep running over it, and yet there's no moisture in that soil at all. And so it's flash flood. It's not going to soak in. 25 mil of rain, 44 mil of rain over 2 days. So that truss that gets formed on top of the ground is very, very effective at making sure that ground doesn't wash away. It creates that crust that can stay in there, protects the soil. It also means hardly nothing getting in when you want it to. So that's what was
Is
there.
your country like this, or
Yeah.
It's not sort of
No.
Yeah.
We're just at the bottom of the hill in Gomer. So yeah, and sadly I took a ride on the motorbike through the bottom of the range, and it's probably one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen. So directly behind our place there hasn't been a fire in there in living memory. So 90 plus years of unburned. It's highly unnatural for a lightning corridor. So it's never had any fire. And the burn has been so intense and so complete. Then that rain event washed so much rock and soil off those hills that the nice tight little ferny gullies are now 20 metres wide of scree, rock and debris, and you could drive a ute up the middle of those valleys that you never used to be able to even walk up. So the damage is unbelievable. The power of that water is frightening. So yeah, trying to stop that water or slow that water up, as Kerry Gushnick will tell you, if you slow it up, it's so valuable. So yeah, for us, the only way we manage it is through that strategic tillage. So you're not denuding your soil, allowing it to wash away when you spray it out. You're spiking into it, and each one of those little spikes becomes a rain gauge, and it's very effective. So my neighbours are really nice people, but like really nice people, but bugger 'em. My fertiliser and my water.
Oh, hanging on to it.
Need some silk tracks.
Yeah.
Go pick it up.
Yeah, so really the take home is do your soil test, check your paddock for percentage of regrowth, good regrowth, and put in something that's going to be quick, fast, or you wouldn't be.
And what shows the grazing management and everything and after's been pretty smick. But the natural enemy of a good establishment of a perennial is weeds. And unless you're probably putting that 12 months in advance, and I'd be interested to ask, like, what's your program on the back of where you've sown oats? Like, is that part of a longer term renovation, or? Sorry, the point I'm just trying to wrap up is don't make a knee-jerk reaction to go to perennials, like, because unless you get your weed management right, you won't get your plant numbers, and then you won't recoup the cost. And to the point that you'll see plenty of people that when they've sprayed out a paddock to pre-sowing have very kindly left some test strips, you know, where they haven't sprayed or where they've missed. And every time you'll see the drill rows run into the test strip, and then they'll disappear, and then they'll come out the other side where nothing has germinated, where they haven't got a successful weed control. So that's one of the points that I'd add to that discussion. But yes, I'd be interested to know, are your oats a pathway to not just a short-term feed, but will you go to another annual next year, or?
There's certainly the main thing is got to get stock back on the place. Got this weather opportunity. Roll the dice. Had mates telling me I was a dickhead.
When your neighbours stop worrying about you, you know you're slipping. But on the back of it, and also one of the pastures that we had in for oats, I grew a beautiful crop of bloody silage oats. Because last year was not a flashy year at the start, and I thought, look, you know, we're gonna need to get something up. So oats is the best shot. So being 10 acres of oats in, then we got rain, got more rain, and I looked after them. They got lost, foliar fertiliser, sprayed the bugs out of them. Beautiful paddock oats. And that's where it got. I didn't quite get rid of the barrier. So that's a bit heartbreaking. But having said that, that paddock is now formed up, ready, been once again strategically tilled before the rain, and has had a light power harrowing so that it is ready to take that permanent pasture. After it gets a germination from this weather and an effective spray. That had coochie, and we sprayed at a ridiculous rate to kill the coochie, which I hate doing, but there's no real option. So on the back of that, of those other oats that we put in, certainly that will be the case. We'll be looking at either an Italian a couple of years, or we might go to a summer crop. Plantain, chicory, loose ends, what we've been doing over the years. And then it'll go into the permanent pasture, but it will be managed. Importantly, full soil disturbance. I don't like doing it very often, but for that permanent pasture, for those phalaris and Cox style, rescue style grasses, full disturbance is the only option. Last season, so did you even get a winter grazing off that prior to silage, or because you sowed so late?
Yeah, look, it went in relatively late, and because we put compost and foliar fertiliser after it got up, we fertilised it. The red leggers really tested it. It was looking bad. I thought, I'm going to have to do something here, so we got rid of the red leggers and then hit it with a foliar fertiliser, and it grew away quite well. And we had freshly calved cows going on, which was just lovely. They had a pretty good time in there. And you know, in a year when we really needed it. So with that and long fibre, neutral determined fibres, non-digestible fibres, we did all right. So, but
Well, hopefully we can do the same for you this year.
well, we don't know.
Yeah, but people have described we're almost facing a similar year to last year,
Very similar.
with very different circumstances.
And this, and you know, when we're talking about our weed controls too, I think we need to keep in mind in the drought years, we don't have Cape wheat, we have Cape feed. You know, we've got a green thing on the ground that's holding our soil together, and you know, maybe that's the best thing we can hope for. So fire is just like a mini drought in many respects. We've lost a fair bit of value in our soil, and we're going to need to make sure that whatever we've got, holding it together, and giving something to chew on while it's eating bloody expensive fodder that we're trucking in. Maybe that's what our